Welcome and good morning to today's episode of Call on Your Chamber. This morning we'll be discussing the blueprint to restructure, advancing in the midst of crisis and maintaining optimal health through it all. My name is Jennifer Lukasich and I'm the Byron Center Chamber Director. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. We know you have many choices when it comes to webinars and appreciate that you find value in what we are sharing with you today. I'd like to take a moment to thank our strategic partners. These businesses are the ones that have gone above and beyond in their support of the Chamber and the community. I'm pleased to announce that we offer video sponsorships for our webinars. Today's sponsor is Byron Community Ministries. At this time, I'll introduce Michael Wozniak, the Director at Byron Community Ministries.
Thanks, Jennifer. We're excited to be here. Byron Community Ministries helps those who are stuck, and we connect them to resources in the community. Our focus is mainly on meeting physical needs, social needs, emotional needs, and spiritual needs. And we do that in a number of different ways. Currently, as this virus has hit, one of the main ways that we're assisting people in our community is actually not on food, but on personal care items. We have seen an influx in the number of opportunities to get food where people maybe have vacancies, or opportunities are those that are in that kind of personal hygiene area. So things like laundry detergent and sanitary and toilet paper are all things that we help people during this journey. We've also, part of our big opportunity that we've seen a big influx in is just mental health. So it's helping those people that are sort of still processing, those that are anxious during this time, and then also those that perhaps are new to this space, being that they got furloughed or lost their job. We help assist those people who can't afford to pay for sessions and make sure that they get the mental health care that they need.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for all the good that you're doing in the community. I'd now like to introduce you to our speaker, Angela Musselman. Angela is a psychologist and a national certified life coach with proactive counseling in the Byron Center area. Her practice offers mental health therapy and business coaching in executive, corporate business, leadership, and wellness coaching. She also offers remote therapy and coaching. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. My name is Angela Musselman, and I have been licensed in the state of Michigan for about 25 years, providing health services through the use of psychology. My office is located out by Byron Center High School, and I started proactive counseling in 2001. Around 2008, I was really evaluating what I was doing as a mental health therapist, as a psychologist, and I realized that the role of psychology plays a fundamental place in our world, but it wasn't meeting the needs of everybody. So I tried to find something that would meet more needs, and I found that to be with coaching. So I went back and picked up a certificate in coaching. So I'm a national board certified life coach, and I specialize in business coach, as a business coach, a corporate coach, and then I also focus in on health and wellness as well. Some of you may be wondering, what is the difference between a life coach and a psychologist? So let me give you a bit of an example. If you are sitting in a car and you're in the driver's seat, with psychology, mental health, you look up into the rearview mirror and you look behind you in your life, and you want to discover what is it that has happened to you in the past that has brought you to the place where you are today. And as a therapist, that's what we work with, is what has happened to you in the past so that you can resolve those things and you can heal. With life coaching, put yourself in that same seat, except instead of looking backwards, we are going to look forward, and we're going to look forward down the road, and we're going to talk about the goals that you have and the plans that you would like to do. And that's what we work on. So we're not looking backwards. We are looking forward to what it is that you want to do. Today, what I'm going to be doing is combining the psychology and the life coaching. And we're going to be talking about what I consider, or what I call the 7 A's. So those A's are, on slide 5, awareness, acceptance, adapting, action, advancing, adjusting, and appreciation. And then on slide 6. So Benjamin Zander, he is the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. And he tells a story about 2 salesmen. And back in the early 1800s, 2 shoe companies decided that they wanted to expand their business in Europe. So what they said is, individually, they said, we're going to expand to Africa. And they put their salesmen on the same ship, and they sent them to Africa. And the first shoe salesman was immediately aware of what he considered to be an insurmountable problem. And that problem was, it was so large that the next morning he went to the telegraph office and he sent a telegram. And this is what he wrote. Horrible news, horrible news. They don't wear shoes. Coming home on the next ship. Second salesman comes off the same ship. He sees the exact same people. And he looks around, he observes, and then the next morning, he too goes to do a telegram to his business. And here's what he wrote. He wrote, great news, they don't wear shoes. Send me 100 pairs of shoes in every size on the next ship. So there's a researcher, her name is Dr. Carol Dweck, and she has researched mindset. And what she would say is that the first salesman's mindset was very fixed. What he saw in his mind, it is black and white, right or wrong, yes or no. And he wasn't able to look any further beyond his fixed mindset. So he went home. The second salesman, according to Dr. Dweck's research, that salesman had a growth mindset. And so he was able to look much further. He was able to see possibility, and he was able to see opportunity. So this conversation is about navigating our way through a pandemic. And what I would like you to consider as we go through this talk is, what mindset do you have? Do you have a fixed mindset, or do you have a growth mindset? Now, it's going to take a little bit of creativity to have a growth mindset, but we're all business owners, and we've all been in tough spots, and I think that we all can understand the value of creativity. So what I'd like to do now is talk about the 7 A's, and as we go through the talk, see how this applies to you. If you do the 7 A's, what I believe what will happen is, not only will your business be able to stay afloat during this time, but I think that you have the potential of actually thriving. So the first A is awareness, and I can't see the slide number on that, but awareness. So the critical question for awareness is, do you have enough situational awareness to make informed decisions about your business? Situational awareness, it's about knowing what's happening on the ground in real time, in reality, about your business. Are you getting reliable information? Are you listening to the experts? So an action step with awareness might be for you is, if you are not familiar enough with what's going on in your field, pick up the phone. Call the experts, call the organizations that you belong to, and get the information that you need to be able to go forward. The next A is acceptance, slide 10. The critical question with acceptance is this: are you prepared to accept 2 more years, potentially, of the changes that may come from this pandemic and how it affects your business? I like this picture. And this is a real picture. This actually happened. It is clear that these golfers did not accept that there was a fire raging really close to them. And my question is, why not? What compelled them to continue to play golf when there was a fire raging so close? There's an excellent book, and I'm going to put it up here, and maybe you can see that. It's called The Unthinkable, and the subtitle is Who Survives When Disaster Strikes and Why? And it's a phenomenal book. And there's a story in this book that talks about a hotel that was hosting a wedding reception, and the hotel caught on fire. And while the fire was raging around the wedding party, there were people still sitting at the bar ordering drinks. And we have to wonder why. What caused them to not get to a place where they could accept that the building was on fire? They simply didn't accept it. They couldn't take that information into their mind. It is as though the facts were inconceivable. So they stayed in denial. And we have to make sure as business owners that we understand the facts of what's going on around us, so that we are able to keep our businesses going, and not just going, but thriving as well. So what will it take for you to resolve, to get yourself to that point of acceptance if you're not already there? Slide 12 is adapting. The critical question with adapting is, if you are going to adapt, what's your plan? As business owners, we have to not only accept the changes, but we have to be able to adapt to them. Examples of adapting recently have been, we have had some restaurants that have not ever done takeout, and now they're providing takeout. So even though it's something they had not done before, they adapted, and they are now doing takeout. But there are some restaurants that shut down, and I'm wondering what happened that they weren't able to adapt. And I wonder about that. I'm not judging, but what is going on that either they weren't able to adapt, or they simply were not able to stay open. The next slide is action. Actually, the next slide is if you're going to adapt, what's your plan? And then we're going to move on to action, which is slide 14. So the critical question with action is, if you're going to adapt, what's your plan? We've talked about awareness, that is knowing the facts. We've talked about acceptance, which is believing the facts. We've talked about adapting, which is making a plan. And then action is time to move. So the question is, what's stopping you from taking action today? Do you need more information? Do you need more reliable information? Have you accepted the changes that have come from the pandemic? And then have you made a plan? So, very important, if you would, write down the question, what's stopping me from taking action today? And then make your list. And then work on your list. The next slide is advancing. This is slide 15. The critical question here is, how can you ethically gain an advantage during a pandemic? So as a coach, I'm usually not satisfied with normal. I prefer optimal. So with the growth mindset, where you look for opportunity and possibility, I believe that you will find it. Sometimes we have to be creative. Sometimes we have to try things that make us uncomfortable. But I believe that with a growth mindset, that we can find opportunity and possibilities. So how do you advance? One way that I would suggest is that you call fellow chamber members and you ask them. If these are people who know your business, who are familiar with what you do, pick up the phone and call. Ask them what they like about your business, and then ask them, now that things have changed, now that our circumstances are different, how would you like to see my business run a little differently so that I can meet your needs as well? And it's okay to make those calls. It's a little uncomfortable sometimes to ask for feedback. But what's happening is I think we're all a little uncomfortable right now. And so calling another chamber member to check in, see how they're doing, and then to ask their feedback, I think that would be wonderful, and I think it's okay. In fact, they might even take a cue from you and ask you the same thing. Slide 16 is adjusting, and I really like this picture. The picture is of an icebreaker out in the channel in Holland. So it's Lake Michigan, then there's the channel, and then it goes into Lake Makatawa. And a couple of years ago on a Saturday, I was out at the lake. This is before social distancing. I was out at the lake, and actually, we need to hold on for just a moment. Dar? So I was out at the lake, and the channel had frozen shut. And since the channel had frozen shut, okay, Bill, I have to hold on just a moment. Dar? So the channel had frozen shut, and they had brought an icebreaker in because there was a very large tanker. And the tanker was frozen in to the lake. The icebreaker rammed the ice in the channel, and then it would back up, and it would ram it again, and then it would back up, and it would adjust every time that it came in so that it took out a wider swath of the ice, and it rammed it again. And nightfall came, and they shut down for the day. And the next day I went out because I was curious to see how this thing was going to go, and they were continuing to ram it again. So about mid-afternoon, the icebreaker finally went through. Everybody who was watching, we all cheered. But what they did is they adjusted. Every single time that they rammed that ice, they would back up and they would come in at a little different angle to make a wide enough swath to go through. So something that I would like to talk about is called plan, do, review. And that has to do with adjusting. Okay. Plan, do, review is about a longitudinal study from high scope back in 1970. And it was a research project that took place. And so what they did is they took preschoolers, and every single day the teachers would meet individually with the kids, and they would ask them, what do you want to do today? And the kids would tell them. And then during the day, the kids would do it. And then at the end of the day, the kids would meet with the individual teachers again, and they would talk about how their day went. They would review what they had said that they were going to do. And what they found out 40 years later, when they went back and they asked those kids how they were doing, this is what they learned. They learned that those little tykes, by learning plan, do, review, those little tykes had fewer teenage pregnancies. They were more likely to have graduated from high school. They were more likely to hold a job and have a higher income. They committed fewer crimes, and they were more likely to own their own car and their own home. Simply because as preschoolers, they were taught to plan, do, and review. So what I'm encouraging you to do now is, as business owners, because things are so different, what I'd like you to do is consider starting a plan, do, review system, so that tomorrow morning when you get up and you get into work, you plan what you're going to do, you do it, but then the critical piece is reviewing that information and reviewing it so that the next day you get the course correct. And then the final A, which is slide 17, is appreciation, and that is being grateful for what you have, being thankful for who is in your life. And then the last slide, what I did is I just took the critical questions and I put them in order so that you can see the flow. And that is, here they are. Do you have enough situational awareness to make an informed decision? Are you prepared to accept more years of change? If you're going to adapt, what's your plan? What's stopping you from taking action right now? How can you ethically gain an advantage? Are you a quitter, or do you reevaluate, adjust, and try again? And do you appreciate all that you have? So And then the last slide is me at the Tigers game with pause, because I'd really like us just to get back to normal so that we can get back to our Tigers games. So thank you, Jennifer, for inviting me to do this presentation. I'm very, very grateful for you and what you do.
Thanks, Angela. It was a really interesting presentation. One thing that I wanted to check real quick, just I tried to put the name of the book in the chat, but is it The Unthinkable? Who Survives
Yes.
When Disaster Strikes and Why?
Yes.
By Angela Ripley.
Amanda.
Oh, sorry. Yep, Amanda Ripley.
Amanda Ripley.
I can't read the name on my screen very well, so
Okay, not a problem.
I find the presentation interesting, and it really echoes one of our first webinars by Oscar Casada. His was more of a marketing presentation, but it really echoed and had a lot of similarities to yours about adapting, and his message was kind of more on, this is not business as usual, and it's probably not going to get back to business as normal. So how do you see as, is it getting into, do we need to adapt in a way to find the new normal?
Yes, it is. The companies that will not survive, and I really think that's pretty strong, but the companies that are really going to struggle, if they have a fixed mindset, if they just believe that it's business as usual, we've done it like this for 20 years, and we've done it this way for 20 years, and this is how we're going to continue to do it, then they probably are not going to do very well. So what I'm looking for right now is my phone charger. So I'm really sorry about that, but there we go. Need to get my phone charger. And then the business owners that have the fixed mindset or the growth mindset, they will do very well because they are looking at creativity. They are looking at opportunities. They are picking up the phone and they are calling. They are the ones who are taking those very important steps to advance their business. I don't think that any of us can do this alone. I don't believe that any of us are an island. I think that we need to be picking up the phone. We need to be in communication with people, even though we have to social distance. So we have to be able to open up our minds enough to be able to be creative, look at possibilities, and be open enough to contact people and ask for their input.
I'm also curious, do you have any recommendations if, maybe some of the people listening are not necessarily owners, but they're employees, and, they kind of feel that the business owners or the leadership in the organization are those people sitting on the golf course with the fire in the background.
Yes.
What's a tasteful and acceptable way to kind of nudge the leadership in the right direction?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important that when we have communication with people that we use words like, is it possible that we could, instead of I need or you should. We need to have an open way to ask those questions. So to go to your employer and say, I'm really struggling right now financially. Would it be possible for you to give me an advance? Would it be, and I understand that we're all struggling, would it be possible for you maybe to pay our insurance for just this month? It's asking those open-ended questions in a understanding and compassionate way, because the employers also are going through a rough time, and they're trying to figure out, how are they going to navigate. So I think compassion and understanding makes it makes the conversation go more smoothly. It helps people to not be defensive, and also I think people are more likely to respond in a positive way when they don't feel as though they're being told what to do, but they're a part of the interaction.
Thank you. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions in the chat right now.
Okay.
I'll put you, just real quickly, put your information back up on the slide. So if they do have concerns or questions about the webinar today, that they can kind of get in touch with you and see how you'd be able to help their business if they're in need of help.
That would be great.
And then,
sorry. Okay, and I would really like to say thank you for being patient with the system here. That my going and getting a phone charger, that's also a part of adapting and just having an understanding that sometimes this kind of stuff happens, and we're just all okay with it. That's that part of compassion and understanding that I was talking about. So sometimes phones run out of battery, and it happened. And so I want to just say that hopefully I was able to demonstrate a way to just have things go smoothly, even when we have interruptions.
Yeah, there's so much that is out of our control, and so many factors that are at play here that we can't count on everything always being perfect. And it's kind of it reminds me of, there was a viral video a couple years ago of a news reporter that must have been doing the reporting from his home office, and one of his little kids ran in the room, and the way he reacted ended up making it a viral video, as opposed to if he would have just embraced the fact that his kid came into the room and somehow, ignored that and just kind of, did the fatherly thing, take the kid and go. So there's definitely ways that we always need to adapt, and our reactions to the new factors are really what is going to help or hurt us, as well as help or hurt our business and employees. So
yes.
So thank you very much for joining us today. And I want to thank Jennifer and our behind the scenes help at the Chamber, Mr. Phil Teets, for all of his great organization and support through all of this as well. Again, just as Jennifer did, I'd like to thank our strategic partners. It's definitely with their help that we're able to do all of this. And, thank you for Michael Wozniak for coming on the show today, and, Byron Community Ministries and sponsoring this webinar. So thank you all, and I hope that everybody has a good week as we move on to through this cycle, and please join us at our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.